Let's go, boys. Episode 205, UFC Seattle in the rear view, and UFC Pitiful on the docket this weekend. It's aptly named UFC Pitiful because the card is truly pitiful. But shout out to our latest sub and always the homie Death Punch 361. Appreciate you growing, chilling with the boys. And we just hit 900 subs. We're trying to hit 1,000. So comment what number subscriber you are. We're going to have a special giveaway for whoever is the 1,000th sub, and we're trying to hit that someday. So we'll see you in the comments for sure. But nonetheless, me boy, let's quickly recap UFC Seattle before we do. If you're looking for this week's locks UFC Pitiful, head straight to the comments. But last week, me boy, finally, your boy is back. I went 6-0. You went 4-2. What stood out to you from last week? I mean, plenty to talk about. Easy light work, MEATLOCK for Fluffy. Javid the Raka absolutely slept. Ewan as a plus 145 dog cashed for both of us. What stood out to you in what was a pretty phenomenal UFC Seattle card?
Yeah, no, man, Fluffy's no joke. Kind of expected what we kind of happened what exactly what we expected. Ricky Simone, like man, he absolutely derailed the hype train. The Rat, I mean, the Rat was a minus 300 and he got snuffed and pretty easy light work. So that was very surprising, but that was a big levels test which the Rat failed. And Hulk Smash is back, baby. Man, he is just so back. I cannot wait to see him go for another title run, hopefully. But also, man, Silva is no joke. That dude throws some absolute insane power. The dongers, he's got some great eye precision. The card was a pretty solid card for the most part, and now we're at Pitiful.
Yeah, great stuff for sure. Ewan, beautiful finish over Ebo Aslan. I mean, the writing was on the wall, right? He took out Ivan Urslan. Ebo Aslan had to be next. We cashed as a dog on that one. Pretty light work. We also both called Rob Font. He was plus 155, emerged with a nice split decision victory over Gene Matsumoto in a close fight, but I actually did think that Rob Font deserved the W in that one. So I was grateful that the judges gave him that split. And then, like you said, John Silva, filthy, easy light work first round finish over the gun Melsik Baghdasaryan. And no one is better than Gene Silva at really like lulling guys into just momentary complacency. He plays on the crowd, and it seemed like Melsik lost his focus for 2 seconds, and boom, he was dropped asleep on the floor. So John Silva's amazing. Called out Bryce Mitchell. That's a fight we would all love to see. And Iwan Kutalaba, I don't know if you saw, called for a rematch against Khalil Roundtree, who he said he beat like a child the first time. So a lot of good potential matchups in the future. You did touch briefly on the main event. What do you think? Song Yadong emerges with the rare majority decision. 3 rounds were completed, and ultimately it was 2-1 on two judges' scorecards. I believe 3-0 on the other. Did you think that Song was dominating that fight? Did you think maybe Henry was going to come back in those later rounds? What did you make of sort of the strange end to the evening?
Yeah, it was definitely very, very strange. You know, it could have really went either way. I thought that that should have been just a no contest. They run it back maybe, but hey, I don't know. Dana White doesn't want to see it. I guess nobody else really cares to see it also. But I think it should have went no contest. I don't think there was enough to the table to be able to say one guy one or the other because it was a 5 round fight to be fair. Now, if this was the fourth round, sure, but it wasn't. So I think there's definitely some what ifs could have happened, and they really should settle the beef in my opinion. But hey, also I'm down to just see both them fight somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. It's just a perfectly strange situation contextually via the rules. I mean, you really get in the weeds trying to dissect why the verdict ultimately was that majority decision. But I'd like to see the rematch too. Seems like Dana, I mean, you got to imagine they sort of wanted Song Yadong, the young, surging, hype beast Chinese fighter, to get the victory anyway. So I think it's one of those just, hey, he got the W, let's move forward, let's, advance him up the ladder kind of thing. And then, the UFC's not doing Triple C any favors because I don't know if anyone has had a historic. I mean, no one fumbled the bag quite like Triple C, and I think the company, whenever they can remind him of that, even in subtle ways, they're going to do that. So, any last thoughts on UFC Seattle, or you trying to just sort of trudge through this pitiful card?
Yeah, let's trudge right through it, right to the trudgy matelock.
Yes, swap us through then, meat boy. You see the text, trying to keep the meatlock streak well and alive. Obviously, Fluffy got it done last week. Manel Kape, aka Starboy, is getting it done for us this week in the meat event. And it's, again, when this is the meat event, you kind of understand the card that you're working with. Obviously, Asu Almabayev is coming in as a late replacement, has a lot of hype. The guy's undefeated, 4-0 in the UFC. Some victories include Matthias Nicolau, who's really on a downturn lately, beat Jose Johnson, CJ Vergara, and Ode Osborne, who he finished and picked up a performance of the night bonus in tow. But all those guys are really not quite on the level of Starboy, who only has the unanimous losses to both Pantoja and Mikhaev in pretty close fights, and then obviously the split decision loss as well. But beyond that, he's really been smoking guys. Has been proven to be a better finisher than Almabayev, who obviously is a decision machine. What are your thoughts on this fight? Obviously, it's the meatlock for a reason. So, how do you anticipate Starboy getting this one done? And if this fight hits the championship rounds, it'll be both guys' first time essentially. So, what do you make of what this fight looks like in rounds 4 and 5, or does it not get that far?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if it's gonna get that far, but also these are little guys, so it wouldn't surprise me if, the Cape man just absolutely dominates the whole time. But I could see him getting a knockout also. But they're just such little dudes. Most likely a decision. A sub would be crazy in my opinion. But yeah, I'm leaning towards a nice little casual, easy, light work meat lock decision.
Yeah, I think decision is probably safe. I mean, Manel Kape is a guy historically who doesn't have a lot of decisions, but in the UFC, it's where he's been picking some of them up, right? Dvorak was a decision, Dos Santos was a decision, and a closer than it needed to be fight of the night. And he does have the finishes over Bruno Silva, Zhalgas Zhamogulov, and Ode as well, and has 17 total finishes across his 20 victories. So he's a proven finisher. Perhaps Asu Almabayev is the right opponent he needs to continue that finishing streak in the UFC, but if you look at Tapology, 64% is rolling the Meat Boys, taking Starboy. About 38% is Brown for the KO. The rest are rolling with you for that decision. 36% going with Asu Almabayev. Officially, if you're taking Cobb by decision, what is going to be his best pathway here? Is it just going to be his lethal quickness? Is he going to mix in some takedowns? It's a meat lock. How do you see this fight playing out en route for a Starboy victory?
Yeah, I think Starborough will keep it on the feet for the most part, but I think he will mix it up a little grappling, a little stand up, et cetera, and I think he's gonna look great in this fight and just pure dominance from beginning to end.
Yeah, he should be a little bit more well-rounded. He's got that helpful 3-inch reach advantage, and for these little guys, that can be tremendous for sure. So Manel Cobb, obviously the meat lock for a reason. Odds aren't great. You'd love to be getting better than minus 218, but we'll be keeping it simple. Throwing down an easy 218, net 100. Get us that 115th meat lock. Keep the streak well alive. And officially, I'll roll with you. I like Manel Cobb by decision as well, but I'm gonna check out the fourth and fifth round TKO numbers as well because perhaps he gets a late finish. Almabayev, I'm not sold that this guy can push a serious pace for 25 minutes, whereas Manel Cop never really seems to have many issues down the stretch. So, although we haven't seen both guys there, I'm going to bank on the idea that Cop will be better prepared in that realm. And in so doing, if the TKO numbers for rounds 4 and 5 are there, I might check them out for sure. But decision's the final call for both of us. Any last thoughts on the Milan?
No, just another lock.
Just another lock for sure. Swap us through because it's another one of our fighters who we loved. We've meat locked him before. We pick him historically, even when he's a dog. But unfortunately, the Chepe Mariscal dog story is well in the past because the odds makers are officially on the Chepe train. He's a what I think perhaps unreasonable minus 470 favorite against a guy in Ricardo Ramos who is historically up and down. He wins some, he loses some, but the guy is a double digit UFC fight veteran. He's been around for a long time and has been in there against very tough guys, right? He fought Ayman Zahabi, fought Saeed, Lerone Murphy, Jordan Erosa. Like, he's got some serious experience. Whereas Chepe Mariscal, I mean, he's been looking amazing, right? Took out our boy, the Leech, took out Morgan Charrier when no one picked him, and he derailed the hype trains of both Jack Jenkins and Trevor Peek. But when you really inspect those W's, it's not quite on the competition level that Ricardo Ramos has seen. So in this one, are you ready to abandon Chepe Mariscal despite all the success we've had for him, or even in spite of those inflated odds, is he still the pick?
The inflated odds are pretty wild. People are showing a lot of respect to the Chep, but I think the Chepe is going to earn these odds on this one. I think this is going to be a one-sided mauling, and Chepe is going to show that he is the real deal, and he's a contender that is, getting up those ranks, and I'm really excited to see where he ends.
Yeah, I buy that for sure. I mean, it'd be difficult to abandon him now. Obviously, the odds aren't great, but this is a prelim headliner, so I kind of think that the UFC, even on this pitiful card, is at least setting up a machine gun for somewhat of an opportunity to reach a new audience. But if you look at Tapology, they are overwhelmingly bullish on Mariscal. 94% going with Chepe, only 6%. Basically, his friends and family are rolling with Ricardo Ramos. It's a lot of beige on both sides, though. So Tapology thinks this is going to be a decision in which Mariscal likely wins. Do you buy that, or do you think he finishes Ramos?
I think he'll finish him, but I don't know. Maybe it does go decision, but I think he will get it done nonetheless. But I'm gonna lean second or third round KO.
Yeah, I mean, he finished Jack Jenkins in the second round, but if we remember, that was that weird arm injury for Jack Jenkins. Jack was even having some early success, and then Chepe just, I think he like laid him out and ultimately fell on his arm and snapped it or something. Beyond that, though, he really has been winning a lot of dominant decisions. So for me, Chepe is obviously the pick. I can't abandon the guy until I see him lose, but I think a decision is probably safest. And I think it's important to remember, I mean, although you can sort of pick apart the UFC wins, this guy also has a win in LFA over Yusuf Zalal, who we saw just a few weeks ago and is looking to be surging towards a title opportunity. So Chepe is a very tough guy, has some good experience outside of the UFC, and we know trains daily with Justin Gaethje. So I like Chepe in this one. I'll go by decision. You got Chepe by finish?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Chepe by finish.
Let us know in the comments if we're sleeping on Ricardo Ramos and he is a solid plus 360 dog, or you're staying on the Chepe train. But nonetheless, me boys, swap us through because this one I'm curious to get your take on specifically. It's William Gomes taking on Hyder Emil, aka the Giga Chad Dominic Cruz. And this is a fight where Hyder Emil has taken his undefeated record up against Gomes, who keeps winning fights, right? This guy refuses to lose. And although his wins are often close, right? Majority win over Jarno Aarons, split decision over the fireman Francis Marshall, split decision over Joanderson Brito, most recently as a very sizable underdog. He keeps emerging with victories, but Hyder Emil is going out there and absolutely sleeping dudes. Fernie Garcia, tough as they come, got slept in the second round. Jung Young Lee made it 65 seconds before he was asleep on the canvas. What do you make of this contest between Giga Chad Dominic Cruz and William Gomes? Are you taking Gomes to upset this kid, or is Hyder Emil going to cash this dog again?
Yeah, man, this is definitely a tough one for sure. But I think I'm gonna ride with Gomes on this one. Not that confident, but he should get it done. He's got I think a little bit more experience, just a little bit more well-rounded, and I think he should be able to get this done via decision.
And he's pretty massive too, right? The guy's 6 foot, has a nice 73-inch reach, whereas Hurricane Cruz is 5'9", has a 70-inch reach, which honestly is probably 65. And we know that he's also 34 going on 35, whereas the Jaguar is a spry just turned 27. So a lot of the intangibles are definitely in Jaguar's favor. Tapology is taking him, 76% is rolling with Gomes, 24% is going with Hyder Emil. And it's interesting because of the 24% Hurricane Hyder Emil backers, basically all of it is Brown. So they think that if he does get it done, it's likely by KO. Gomes, however, is a proven decision machine, and Tapology metrics reflect just that. If you're taking the Jaguar Gomes, are you buying that it's probably a snoozer of a decision, or any chance he picks up a finish while giving Emil his first L?
I think it's gonna be a snoozer decision, to be honest. I would be very surprised to see it going an absolute slobber knocker KO fest. It just doesn't seem like it's that kind of matchup fight, but it should be an interesting one. And yeah, I think it's gonna go, Gomes via decision, unanimous.
Yeah, I buy that. That's probably the safe play. I bet it's probably around minus 130, minus 135 as well. So my assessment is that most bettors will likely be on Gomes by decision. I'm going to go a little bit YOLO on this one, Meat Boy. And it's not the most confident pick, but I'm going to take the Giga Chad. I think somehow he might find a way to get this one done. I've picked against him historically, and he just keeps winning fights. So until I see him lose, it's going to be difficult for me to fade him. And Gomes just keeps barely emerging with victories. Like every time you watch William Gomes fight, every fight looks the exact same, and it's always a very close competition. So I'm gonna go Hyder Emil either by split decision in a typically close Jaguar Gomes fight, or maybe Hurricane even sleeps him with one of those lethal early meat bombs. So I'm gonna take the slight dog in this one. Let me know in the comments if I'm tripping on this one, and this is an easy light work setup opportunity for the Jaguar. But officially, I got the Hurricane. You got Gomes by decision.
Yeah, Gomez by decision.
Yeah, let us know where you're at on that one, Meat Boys. Swabbers through the Meat Boy, only two to go, and this one is always fun, right? It's an OG meathead, Nazrat Hackbrast, Hazrat Nakbrast, as he takes on Esteban Ribovics, who is a minus 285 favorite, and I want to touch on that one immediately because Hazrat, I mean, similar to Hamos, who we broke down earlier, is a guy who's now been in the UFC for a long time. He's got double-digit fights. He's fought against a lot of the toughest dudes, and recently he's finally got his career back on track, right? This is a dude who had lost two straight, was flirting with other promotions, and now don't look now, but he's won four straight and has some decent wins, including a finish over Jamie Malarkey and a nice most recent split decision, somewhat controversial victory over Flash Gordon. So it seems as though all the hype that Nasrat once had is finally being rediscovered, but he's taken on Esteban Ribovics, who at 14-1 is another guy similar to Hyder Emil who just keeps winning fights that the odds makers don't think he will. I mean, I think to all of his recent fights, he was a sizable dog, right? Daniel Zellhuber, he wins split decision as a dog. Terrence McKinney finishes easy light work in the first round as a sizable dog. So it's about time that the odds makers are giving him some respect at the minus 285 number. But at plus 230, are you seeing any upset odds potential for Nasrat, who, just like Ribovics, is also arguably peaking?
Yeah, yeah, no, they both might be peaking right now, but I don't know. I'm kind of mind blown to see Nazrat being this big of an underdog. Like, I don't, maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like Nazrat is gonna win this. I think this might be a close fight, but I think Nazrat, he's fought some pretty top contenders in the UFC, while his opponent really hasn't fought anyone that's top, compared to Nazrat. So I think Nazrat is gonna win this, gonna outgrid it, and win this one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on the experience. Nazareth's been in there with Drew Dober, been in there with Dan Hooker, Bobby Green. Yes, he took L's in all those fights, but definitely a higher level competition than Ribovics, whose arguably best fight is Terrence McKinney. But again, at least Terrence took the L in that one, whereas Nazareth was taking L's himself against that upper echelon. So it's very much a meeting in the middle style fight. You'll have to let us know in the comments who you are rolling with. Ultimately, though, Tapology Meat Boy is not really split at all. 83% is going with El Gringo Esteban Ribovics. 17% only going with Nasrat, and it's all beige for the decision. If you're riding with the 17% underdog minority on Tapology, do you agree with them that decision will be Nasrat's best pathway against Ribovics?
Yeah, I think Nazareth will get a probably decision to be honest. I mean, he could get a knockout, but I don't know. I think it's gonna be a decision also, a long gritty fight.
Yeah, I feel that they're basically the same age, they're the same height. A 3-inch reach advantage is in favor of Nasrat, and we know that Nasrat trains at TriStar, right? This is a guy who's been working with some of the best fighters in the world for a long time. Ribovics, meanwhile, is the best in his gym at Alpha Team. So, love the matchup in this one. I've been going back and forth, Meat Boy. Are you really picking Nasrat?
Yeah, I think I gotta pick Nazareth purely because man, I'm an absolute degen, and when it comes to these kind of odds, and Nazareth's he's kind of bouncing back off his L's, and I think this would be a statement where he's gonna go, "Oh, I am the guy, and I'm coming back."
Yeah, that's fair. I'll roll with you, Meat Boy. I mean, Nazareth, I believe, was one of the OG meatlocks. I think back to mid 2020, and there were a lot of Nazareth meatheads in the chat. So if any of the Nazareth chat heads are still around, then let us know for sure. I like your compelling argument. I like the lore we have with Nazareth. Let's take Nazareth Hackbrass as a sizable dog in this one to likely pick up a decision against Rebavix. I don't see Rebavix going out there and flatlining Hackbrass early and often, and if he doesn't, let's hope Hackbrass can mix it up a little bit and just be a better MMA fighter than Ribovics, who is obviously going out there to stand and bang. So, Nazarite by decision, is that both of us?
Yeah, 100%.
Let's run it. Let us know in the comments if we're tripping, but if we're not, it's plus 230 Nazrat peak. And last week, the Basharat did not work. Nazrat might, however, this week. Swap us through them, Meat Boy. It's the last one, and somehow this is the co-meet event on a UFC fight night, which is truly pitiful. Cody Brundage plus 120 is taking on the Cuban Missile Crisis, Julian Marquez, and this is a fight featuring two guys. I mean, there's two collective wins in their last 7 fights. The last victory was in 2023. That was for Brundage, and then the last victory for Cuban Missile Crisis was way back in 2021 when he barely picked up a finish over Sam Alvey. So he's lost 3 straight, is Cuban Missile. Brundage, meanwhile, the last time we saw him, he opted out of a fight after taking an illegal elbow from Abdul Razak Al Hassan in a fight that he was about to be slept in, but Abdul just really misplaced the last few punches. Subsequently, Brundage emerges with a no contest. But it's a very scrappy fight. I think its loser is probably heading to a GFL title shot over Luke Rockhold right after this fight ends. Who are you taking in the co-meet? Does Cody Brundage pick up his first victory in a couple years, or does the Cuban Missile Crisis pick up his first win in many years?
Yeah, I think Cuban Missile Crisis is definitely due for one. He should be able to knock out Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage crumbles at the first sign of fear, which that will come pretty quick because Cuban Missile Crisis is going to bring the missile and the crisis. So I think this is going to be, honestly, it should be pretty easy work for him. He just needs to land a punch early and often and then get the finish early in the round.
Yeah, it's interesting because Cody, I think the odds makers just didn't really know what to do with this one, right? Odds makers gave him minus 170, excuse me, Cuban Missile Crisis. They've since narrowed a little bit. He's closing around minus 142 now. Tapology, they've seen it the entire other way. So they love the wrestlers over at Tapology. 81% is going with Cody Brundage. Half is Brown for the KO. So maybe they think it's just a repeated takedowns, finds a way to pin an arm, and ultimately gets a TKO on the ground. But I got to say, I'm a little bit surprised by the Tapology metrics. 81% going with Brundage, 19 for Marquez. What do you make of Tapology?
Yeah, the topology, the fact that I don't know. It's honestly surprising that 100% isn't on the Marquez, to be honest. The odds. I mean, this is the Cuban Missile Crisis we're talking about, and Cody Brundage. I mean, he fumbles at the fear of Bo Nickel, which, as we saw, Bo Nickel is only human. He's not even a Hamzat. So I don't know, man. When a Missile Crisis is coming his way, Brundage is definitely gonna run home.
Yeah, I feel on that one for sure. And I do have to ask me, boy, I mean, because it's obviously a statement victory for Julian Marquez. It was when his career absolutely peaked. Do you at all put too much stock in his Anaconda choke performance of the night finish over your boy, Maki Pitolo, aka Coconut Bombs? And is that perhaps why you're edging him in this one over Cody Brundage?
Honestly, I still don't know how he even beat Coconut Bombs, but yeah, I think he's gonna get this done easily. And if Cody Brundage tries to wrestle, he might hit the same thing he hit on the Coconut Bombs. I think it's just one of those fights that I really don't see this fight going 3 rounds. Either Brundage gasses him out, submits him, maybe KOs him, but probably gets slept before he even gets to that point because Brundage quits. So Brundage can quit early and often. Cubus Christ is going to throw a massive meat bomb and send him back to the shower room.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you present him with some adversity, sometimes he will take that way out. So I think that with Julian Marquez's back up against the wall, having lost 3 straight, gotten finished in all of them, never even saw a third round, he's got to know this is his last opportunity. And I think Marquez is a kind of a company guy, and so for my purview, this has to be the UFC saying, "Here, Cuban Missile Crisis. Yes, this is UFC Pitiful, but this is a co-meet event, and it's against the easiest W we could find in Cody Brundage. So either you can stick around, maybe earn one more contract, and we can feed you to some other wolves to write your story, or you too could be straight on your way to GFL. He'll have to pick his fate this Saturday, but I'm with you, me boy. I'm gonna take Julian Marquez to likely pick up a decision this one. I think this is gonna be kind of a clench him up snoozer, and ultimately, as long as Marquez is able to not get stuck underneath Cody Brundage, then I can see him having some success in this one. And another reason that gives me a little bit of confidence in Marquez is he's been finished in 3 straight, right? Against RoboCop, against the Power Bar, and against Zachary Reese. And that Zachary Reese fight was like the first punch of the game. That dude is very long, very strong. I don't see Cody Brundage as a lethal early finisher. I mean, yes, he picked up Zach Reese, slammed him on his dome, and knocked him out, but I think Julian Marquez will have a little bit better takedown defense than that. And when Cody's unable to get that first or second round early YOLO KO or TKO, then let's hope Julian Marquez can find a way in the later rounds. And like we said, present Brundage with some adversity and ultimately make him fold. So I'll go Julian Marquez by snoozer decision. Are you taking Cuban Missile Crisis to end Cody Brundage?
Yeah, I think he's gonna send him to the PFL or bare knuckle. That's probably where Cody belongs, to be honest. And Keith Christ is gonna get this done 100%.
Yeah, let us know in the comments who you're taking in. Again, unfortunately, the co-meet event. But nonetheless, people, UFC Pitiful in the rear view. Next week, absolutely stacked card. We will have Ankalaev taking on Pereira. Dan Hooker just pulled out, so who knows who steps up against Gaethje. But a lot of amazing things happening next week. Let's make it through this week, and let's keep our momentum going, because the Meatlock cashed with ease. We were collective 10-2 last week, so UFC Seattle was stonks. Hopefully UFC Pitiful is as well. I went 6-0 last week. I'd be hard pressed to believe I go undefeated again. So I say I go 3-2. How you doing for UFC Pitbull?
I'm gonna go 4-1.
4-1 for meat. 3-2 for you, boy. Let us know in the comments if we're way off on some, and or if you agree with this week's meat luck. And is Manel Kape going to shine as the star boy he is? Any last thoughts, meat boy?
No, this is an absolute pitiful card, and next weekend is definitely better.